The cheers light the beam. You'll be hearing about that throughout the year with the Sacramento Kings.
Are you ready? They want it!
Yeah.
Light the beam!
They do not know what Sacktown brings. When on the low, that's a Sacktown thing. Talking about us, it's a bounce out thing. Must they forgot we some Sacramento Kings. Whole squad going crazy, yeah, we back with it. Northern Cali going crazy, one sack winning. If you doubted us, then ain't no backspinning. This is real right here, ain't no catfishing. So tell me what you see now. Coming down the lane off the rebound. It's 9-16 now. Look towards the sky like the beam now. Tell them like the beam, like the beam now. You can tell them like the beam now. Tell them like the beam now. You can tell them like the beam now. Tell them like the beam, like the beam now. You can tell them like the beam now. Tell them like the beam now. If you reppin' that Kings like the beam now. Sack crowd, make sure everyone knows. Let me tell you how this thing really goes. Yeah, we travel deep, whether we home or on the road, we lit. You don't want that smoke, we the team of the year. We shaking things over here, don't doubt, we believe over here. We don't bleed over here. And let me just speak real clear, only deal with real Kings over here. So tell me what you see now. Coming down the lane off the rebound. It's 9-16 now. Look toward the sky like the beam now. Tell them like the beam, like the beam now. You can tell them like the beam now. Tell them like the beam now. You can tell them like the beam now. Tell them like the beam, like the beam now. You can tell them like the beam now. Tell them like the beam now. If you reppin' that Kings like the beam now.
Light the beam!
Light the beam! Calvin, we get a win, finally! What's up, everybody?
Finally.
Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans, by fans. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you smash up that like button down below, and please hit that subscribe button. We put out fresh Kings content, and we are live after every single Kings game, win or lose. But of course, it feels much, much better after a win. Calvin, we lit the beam tonight. How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm good, man. Shout out to Fred. He called it. 20-point win tonight. He brought us luck from across the pond so much that I had to bring the chain back. I know all you guys were wanting that, so.
I love it. Calvin's got the chain on. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Wow, we got a lot of people here in the chat. I see Fred is here, PK, Patrick, Charles, Gothen, Matthew, Alfie Man is here, Mike, Lane, Fred Dixon, Lydia, Urslo, PK. Wow, we got a lot of people here. Callum, welcome in. Bouncer is in the house. Brian, welcome in. Brian. Let's see who else here. Key Kings. Wow, we got a bunch of people in the chat. I love my life. Charles, welcome in. Double O. Hopefully you guys are having an awesome day. Calvin, dude, we saw the wave going in this game. This has got to be one of my favorite games of the year. We set all sorts of records tonight. Most threes in franchise history in a game. Probably one of the biggest waves that I haven't been a part of, Calvin, because you know when I'm part of the wave, dude, it's monster. But hey, the most important thing tonight, Kings win tonight 136-111 over the Orlando Magic. Calvin, give me your first thoughts on the game tonight.
They were on fire. They could not miss. These Kings, we talk about the three-point shot all the time, the benchmark for threes that they need to hit to be competitive. They blew that out of the water today. New franchise record. When you hit 23 threes in a game, you're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, they definitely killed it tonight. Fred, I saw your post calling us a class act. Please knock it off, dude. We don't want people to get the wrong impression of us on this show. There's no class here. We are 100% classless. Calvin, I got a lot of things to say about the game tonight, but let's just dive here into the box score because it's an easy one. Domantas Sabonis only plays 32 minutes tonight, but 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. He continues the double-double streak. The dude is a monster. He is currently leading the NBA in rebounds and double-doubles. 5 of 12 from the field, 1 of 1 from three-point range. 30 points for Harrison Barnes, a huge game for HB. 11 of 13 from the field, 6 of 7 from three-point range, Calvin. Harrison Barnes was lighting the beam all night long. 15 points for Keegan Murray, also 5 three-pointers for him tonight. He was stroking them. 11 points, 9 assists for De'Aaron Fox, 14 points for Kevin Huerter. However, he was in foul trouble. The only King in foul trouble tonight. 4 personal fouls for him in 22 minutes of action. A lot of bench production tonight. 14 points for Trey Lyles. 11 from Chimezie Metu. Great game from Chimezie. And we did see him light the beam after the game. Shout out to Metu. I definitely want to talk a lot about him tonight. 5 points for KZ Okpala. 3 points for Dellavedova. We saw that 3 late in the game. 5 for Mitchell. 2 for Terrence Davis. 14 points for my guy Malik Monk returning from injury. 7 rebounds, 6 assists. We got to see 5 minutes from PJ Dozier. We'll talk a little bit about him later in the show. But Calvin, anything here that really stood out for you?
It's got to be the offensive explosion from everyone, right? I mean, across the board, they got production from everybody. The bench, the role players in the starting lineup. I mean, we already talked about the threes. The shooting percentage, when you put that type of pressure on a defense from outside in, it's really difficult to deal with. I mean, you make shots, you're pretty tough to defend no matter what. This was just one of those games. The Kings have been on the wrong side of it a few times too many recently. We talked about how they needed a game like this, and so they came out firing today, and everybody was hitting, not just 1 or 2 players.
Yeah, definitely. They were shooting lights out today. Shout out to my guy Callum out there. Callum, thank you so much for adding to the beer fund. We appreciate you for the super chat. If anybody wants to add in, dude, Calvin and I, we love beer. I mean, tonight, what are we drinking tonight? Old Fashions. Also beer fund, I guess. But feel free to shoot us a super chat if you'd like to support. Alfie Man says, what about the 10-day player, Calvin? Alfie Man, I know we were talking smack about 10-day contracts, but hey, I wouldn't say that
Yes,
PJ Dozier was a game changer tonight, but we'll definitely talk about him, so make sure you stay tuned for that. As far as the team stats go, the Sacramento Kings, dude, these stats are crazy. 53% from the field, 50%, Calvin, from three-point range, 23 of 46, 75% from the free throw line, only 12 attempts, which was not many, Calvin. We didn't see any free throw attempts in this game until like 3 minutes left in the second quarter, at least for the Kings anyways. 48 rebounds for the Kings tonight. They did out-rebound a big Magic team. I know a lot of people were talking about this Magic team was so big, they were going to rebound, but guess what? Sabonis is so strong, Fox is so fast, Mike Brown's so smart, dude. We out-rebounded them tonight. 39 assists, also sets season high for the Sacramento Kings. 11 turnovers, which is good. 46 points in the paint. And only 13 fast break points. But, Calvin, I think the Kings had this game in the bag for quite a while. Shout out to Fred, man, because I know Fred called it on the last stream. The Kings, he was being nice. He's like, the Kings are going to win by 20. Calvin, they win by 25 tonight. A huge win. Oh, finally, my heart can take a break here. I'm not stressing out over this game. It was a great game to watch. Anything else that really stood out to you here in the team stats?
I mean, the obviously the shooting numbers, you talked about rebounding. It's a lot harder to get rebounds when all the shots are going in, especially from 3. But I think it's the 39 assists. I mean, that number is ridiculous. It ties a season high. The other time we saw that number was when they played Brooklyn early in the year, and they put up 150 points in that game. So 39 assists to just 11 turnovers. That's a great ratio to have.
Yeah, great ratio. As Lane says here, they exploded all over the court tonight. That is very true. We also got a Tanvir sighting. Shout out to Tanvir. If you guys don't know, Tanvir is one of our very first subscribers on the channel here for Royal Rebounds. So Tanvir, we always appreciate you. We appreciate all you guys. But I got my eye on you, Tanvir, because I know you've been watching for a long time. We greatly appreciate it. Shout out to Christian here for joining in. Derek is here. Welcome in, everybody. Lydia, I think I said hi to you already. So happy to see you guys. Gothan, Ricky's in the house. DJ, wow, we got a bunch of people, a bunch of happy Kings fans, dude. Asha's here. It looks like everybody here is happy in the chat. Calvin, first thing I got to ask, because we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, I'm talking super fast here because I'm excited. Thank you, Fred. We appreciate the super chat. Maybe we can buy a bottle of red wine. I know like you were drinking that before the game. But hey, Calvin, I think the thing that everyone wants to talk about at the beginning is let's talk a little bit about this Rookie of the Year matchup. You know, you got Paolo Banchero, or however the hell you want to pronounce his last name, and you got Keegan Murray, who was stroking it for the Sacramento Kings tonight. Paolo ended with 17 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 5-11 from the field. Pretty good game. Keegan, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 of 7. Of course, the Kings get the win tonight. But what were your thoughts on that matchup? Who do you think had a better game?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit of an unfair comparison. I mean, the Kings obviously won the game. Keegan Murray shot really, really well. He's been playing a lot better lately, you know, ever since that mid-season slump. Banchero's had a fantastic season, but what these two guys do for their teams are completely different. I mean, the ball is in Banchero's hands all the time. He creates for his teammates. Keegan does not create for his. His numbers speak for themselves when I talk about Banchero. I mean, the dude might make the All-Star team as a rookie this year, which is enough said, right? Like, he's a really, really great player. One of the things that I like about Banchero, aside from just his size and his skill level, he's one of the few players I see that is able to use the double spin move. You talk about Siakam all the time and how good his spin move is. Banchero will spin to his left and then immediately spin back to his right. That's really hard to defend when you've got a guy who's 6'10" and also has the great footwork, you know, to be able to, first of all, not travel on that type of a move and have the skill to put up a shot after that. He's a really, really talented player. I mean, the Kings won the game, so give Keegan credit. But in terms of comparing these two guys, I don't think it's a fair comparison.
I want to try something real quick, Calvin. Keegan.
Oh, I was waiting for the chat again. Murray.
Okay. We'll get it again, guys. We'll get it again. When I say Keegan, you guys, dude, Murray in the chat, dude, write it. Yeah, there you go, PK. PK's on something tonight. Callum's here. Keegan.
Murray.
There you go. Okay, we'll get it. We're working on it. And don't worry, guys. We're going to talk about Mo Bamba. I know everybody wants to talk about Mo and what Mo Bamba's doing.
I think nobody wants to talk about him, actually.
Some people want to hate on Mo Bamba because Mo Bamba didn't have very many points tonight, very many rebounds. I mean, we'll talk about Mo Bamba. We'll definitely talk about him. But, I mean, Calvin, we don't really have too much to say as far as the starters. I mean, they played 30, 20-something minutes tonight, but the starters did a great job getting out and ahead early in this game. They didn't look back, right? The Magic did have a run here or there to cut the lead to single digits, and then the Kings would just kind of stomp them out again there. Definitely a game that I want to see, right, where the Kings are actually playing well, dude. I'm not stressing out. The starters are not making mistakes that are being highlighted on SportsCenter after the game. We're not all talking smack about the referees, even though I didn't think the refereeing was very exceptional in this game tonight. But it just feels good to finally just, you know, have a little bit of breathing room. That's the most important part. But like I said, Domantas Sabonis, this dude was playing great, dude. 12 points, which is, you know, not what people are used to scoring-wise, but take into account he only took 12 shots, right? So 12 points, 10 rebounds. He did his same thing, passing the ball, 8 assists tonight. But most importantly, no personal fouls. 0 personal fouls for Domantas Sabonis tonight. Calvin, break it down for me.
He had another great game. I mean, the one thing I'll say about the no personal fouls is the Magic are not a team that really pounds it inside necessarily with big men. Wendell Carter, all these big guys they shoot a lot of threes. They play on the perimeter a lot. So I think this was an easier game for him to kind of not have to worry about defending without fouling as much. There wasn't as much pressure and stress on him, I think. But, dude, the guy had, 9, 5, and 5 in the first, 10 minutes or 12, 11 minutes of this game. Huge. So he was definitely a matchup nightmare for Orlando. And when you combine that with the fact that the Kings were shooting as well as they did from three, Orlando was kind of had their heads spinning really all night.
I like what PK says here in the chat. No Bamba tonight. It's so funny how fans, we are just so emotional, right? And one night we're like, the Kings are horrible, trade everybody. Then the next night we're like, dude, the Kings are great. And then one night we're just enamored. We need rim protection. Lydia, I'm looking at you. We need another big man. Bring in Mo Bamba. And now we're like, oh, Mo Bamba's not that great, blah, 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 all this. We're so funny as fans, Calvin. It's really, really hard, dude. The emotions just grab us and pull us by the heartstrings. So it is hard to stay level-headed sometimes. I'm just happy about a win, Calvin, because we haven't had some breathing room and a win for a little while. We talked a little bit about Keegan Murray. What'd you think about De'Aaron Fox tonight? You know, kind of like Sabonis, did not put up a ton of points, only 11, but 9 assists. The Kings were passing the ball. We talked about how the Kings hit a season high in assists tonight, and, you know, part of making shots helps, right? When you're making 50% of your three-pointers,
yes,
assists are a lot easier, right, than when you're making 30%. But what'd you see out of De'Aaron Fox? What'd you like? Was there anything that you disliked?
I wouldn't say there was a lot that I disliked. I don't think there's a lot to dislike from anybody on the team today. You know, you'd really have to be diving deep into the film to point out areas where, you know, this is a missed assignment. They gave up some offensive rebounds, stuff like that. But offensively, they played about as well as you could play. And I think that the important part is, as great as De'Aaron has been, and we've had a lot of these close games lately where they've really needed him big time in the fourth quarter, it's nice to give your star a little bit of a break every now and then. If he has to do that every single game, yes, it will show, you know, how good of a player he is, but is he going to have anything left by the time you get to the end of the regular season and go into the playoffs? Those types of games, while they're good learning experiences, they're good practice for playoff type, you know, scenarios and situations late in the game. You don't want to have to overexert your two-star players, you know, for the course of the entire season. So I think it's really great that the Kings came out and played very well as a team, and they didn't have to ride De'Aaron Fox, you know, to the end of this one.
Yeah, that's important because we need rest whenever we can get it, you know, whether it's, you know, with a blowout, whether it's taking games off, stuff like that. But De'Aaron Fox, it's good. Only 29 minutes of action, so it's good for him to get a little bit of a rest. Shout out to Sass here and also to Ryder. Sass says, we shot 50% from three-point range despite Monk and Fox combining for 1 for 10, dude. 1 for 10 from three-point range. No threes from Malik Monk tonight. Didn't need it. He was still smiling on the bench, happy as ever, right? 1 for 6 for De'Aaron Fox from three-point range, but it's okay. Everyone else was picking up the pieces tonight, so that was definitely huge. This was a team win, right? We have, 8 people in double figures tonight for the Sacramento Kings. That does not happen a lot. Calvin and I have been talking the past couple games. The bench has disappeared, right? We don't know what happened to the bench. We had a game with like 8 bench points. We had another game with like 12 bench points. So it's definitely key to have guys step up and do the damn thing. Kevin Huerter tonight, only 22 minutes of action for him, but 4 of 8 from three-point range, 14 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. Calvin, I know you're excited because you did a deep dive today on rebound and block numbers for a lot of good small lineup teams like the Sacramento Kings, and I know you want to talk about that. But we did see some rebounding from some guards today. But what were your thoughts on Huerter? I mean, the dude's back, right? He's shot exceptionally well from the three-point line for maybe the past 5 games. He did go through a little bit of a slump. Looked like himself tonight, but he did pick up those 4 personal fouls, something that I would be concerned about if the game was a little bit closer. But because of the blowout, obviously, I don't care at all right now because I'm like, oh, it's okay. You know me, dude. I'm the kind of manager where it's like, do whatever you want, but when you start effing up, then I care. They weren't effing up tonight, so, dude, go for it.
Well, I think it's par for the course, right? I mean, he shot 50% from 3. You know, he's been above 40 all year long. You talked about the slump. He's definitely broken out of that. I think we've talked about his ability to use more than just the three-point shot to attack on offense, mid-range, his backdoor cuts, off of dribble handoffs and screen and roll with Sabonis have been great all year. And then defensively, it's the same thing. He gives effort, but he picks up fouls pretty easily because he has trouble staying in front of guys. So it was the game that I've come to expect at this point from Kevin Huerter, and that's not a bad game. I thought he played well. When he shoots very well from outside especially, it opens things up for other guys. It gives guys more open looks like Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray from three because, you can only shrink off of a shooter, a good shooter who's hot for as many possessions as you can when there's 4 or 5 guys that are shooting well from outside and the ball is moving like it is today. This is when the Kings offense is at its best.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what we brought Huerter here for was to stretch the floor. That's exactly what he did tonight, 4 of 8 from 3. But I think he's found ways to get involved even when the shots aren't going down, right? Getting rebounds, assisting. Yes, he doesn't play the best defense individually, but I think he's pretty good communicator. He's pretty good at communicating with a lot of his teammates and playing good team defense. So, I mean, the Kings allowed 111 tonight, which is better than they've done as of lately. Not the defense, that we hope for, but the offense was definitely there tonight. But I like what I see out of Kevin Huerter. Only 22 minutes of action. But, hey, I'm not here to complain about anything tonight, Calvin. I'm not complaining about the refs. I'm not complaining about missed free throws, personal fouls, any of that stuff. I'm just happy. Alfie called in sick today. Alfie, hopefully you call in sick tomorrow. We might be rewatching this game because this is one of my favorite games of the year, especially, dude. When I saw the wave, Calvin, when I saw the wave going on in the crowd, I was just like, this tops it off for me. You know how much I love the wave. So
Yes,
that was huge. But, hey, that's it for the starters. Like I said, the starters they played well, but they were really efficient. They got it done early and allowed the bench to kind of come in. We saw a bunch of bench production. I mentioned Lyles, Metu, Malik Monk was back. Calvin, tell me about the bench. Who were you most impressed with tonight? I want to hear about the impact of Malik Monk returning after missing the last game. And then, dude, you got to give Lyles some more love. Lyles has been playing exceptionally well. I love me some Trey Lyles.
Yeah, I think you could give love to just about everybody that came off the bench tonight. You mentioned the production in terms of scoring. I think the graphic they put up on the screen tonight tells it best. They were averaging, 44 points per game off the bench in the month of November, and it's basically been cut in more than half since then to this point. So it was a huge weapon for them early on in the year, and lately it hasn't been there. You can see what a difference it makes, even though they're playing, a team that is not one of the competitive teams or in terms of win-loss record in the league. It makes such a difference in how easy it is for the Kings to get themselves going on offense, to give the starters a break so that they're fresher later in the game. I mean, it makes all the world of difference. Malik Monk's energy, we talked a lot about that after the Laker game, him not being there and how it helps all the guys around him. Trey Lyles has been very, very consistent lately. I would say he's been their best overall bench player for sure over the last 6 weeks, if not the whole year. Davion's in there taking charges again, and then we saw Metu again, and he was able to produce for them tonight. When they have that backup 5 that actually gives them serious production on the court, again, that's a huge game changer for the team.
Yeah, I agree. PK says it's hard to let guys try out when our schedule is so tough. PK, I don't remember if you remember, or I don't know if you remember, a couple streams ago, I was talking about the Kings had the 7th toughest schedule in the NBA up to that point, but now they have the 3rd easiest schedule in the NBA for the rest of the season. So I'm definitely expecting quite a few more wins here. Also, Lydia, I want to remind you, only 50 likes and we get to see your boys tonight. So campaign for some likes there in the chat because I know you love your Island boys. So we'll definitely see that. I Love My Life says Malik tonight sparked it up. 54.5% field goal percentage, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 block. I know Malik has an unusual off year 3-point wise, but he is so much more, going to be so satisfied when his 3-pointers get going. I couldn't agree more. I think Malik Monk, besides all the wonderful things you highlighted there, this dude has just a spark. He's got some swagger. He's got some energy to him. We see him smiling. He's always, Calvin, he's either smiling or he's like glaring at the officials for a horrible call, which is something that I love, dude. This guy is just a ball of energy, and I think the Kings go as far as Malik Monk's energy can really take them. We saw him on the bench tonight, smiling, laughing with Harrison Barnes, dude. It's contagious, man. I think that every team needs a guy like Malik Monk. We saw it years ago with Shumpert, right? A lot of Kings fans were really disappointed when Shumpert was traded. Please, all I'm saying, please do not trade Malik Monk. This guy needs to stay with the Sacramento Kings. And dude, he's playing well, but I agree. I would like to see 3 falling a little bit more, but Calvin, Bouncer, get these sex bots out of here, Bouncer. Get these sex bots out of here. But anyways, back to Malik Monk. As I mentioned, the dude is a shooter, right? Shooters shoot. That's what they do, right? Sometimes they make shots, sometimes they don't. But hey, I think he's in a little bit of a slump at the moment from the 3-point line. But he will recover. He will come back. And, dude, the league better watch out because when Malik is splashing them from 3, this Sacramento Kings team is really, really dangerous. Calvin, give me your thoughts on Malik Monk. And then after that, I want to just hear from you in terms of, what do you think about the defense tonight for the Kings?
Well, as far as Malik goes, I think we've already said, pretty much everything you can say about him. I like the point that keeps being brought up in the chat, though. His ability to attack the basket, can offset the fact that he hasn't shot that well from 3. What'd you say while we were watching the game tonight, Barry? He should be dunking on people at least twice in every game. His athletic ability, his finishing ability, and also his playmaking ability allow him to, really put an impact on the game even when he's not shooting that well from the outside. So if he continues to play like that, yes, they would love for him to be back to the 41% range from 3, but they don't necessarily need that from him every single night. Now that they have these other good shooters on the team, like Huerter and Murray has been shooting a lot better, and if Harrison Barnes is going to continue to shoot better from 3, they won't need to rely on Malik as much in that area. But we have also talked about that second unit needing, a guy that kind of drives the offense. Sabonis clearly does that for the starters. Who's going to be the guy to do that for the second unit? Malik can totally take that role, and you saw it tonight. As far as the defense goes, I mean, they forced the Magic into a lot of jump shots, a lot of outside shots, and they missed a lot of them. Do we have a caller coming in?
Dude, do your thing. We got Nick on the line, dude. He's so excited.
Nick,
he wants
Nick's
to talk,
ready
but
to go.
Calvin, I'm going to
We
let
can
you
talk
finish your pitch.
No, that's okay. We can talk about the defense later. Let's hear what Nick has to say.
All right, let me bring him in. Nick, welcome in, Nick. What'd you
How are
think
you
about
guys
the
doing
game
today?
tonight?
I feel like it's great, and winning the game is good, and they did great tonight, and I feel happy about it. So why not light the beam?
Why not light the beam? Dude, you sound excited. I can hear it in your voice tonight.
Yes, I do. Light the beam. Light the beam. Light the beam. How about why not light the beam?
Why not light the beam? Dude, who do you think had the best game? Who's your king of the night, Nick?
Keegan Murray.
Calvin?
He did it, man. Murray, you don't need me.
Yeah?
I like it, dude. I like it. Keegan had a great game. He was stroking it from 3-point range. You think he's better than Paulo?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope he ends up being better. I think they could both be great players, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah. I feel great about it, and I feel great about winning your games. Winning your games is good. You got to keep winning. Got to keep playing defense.
Yeah, that's important.
a good point.
You do have to
Gotta
keep playing defense.
defense.
Nick, did you vote for your Sacramento Kings All-Stars today?
I did vote it. I did. You could possibly win a chance. You could possibly win a chance to win a trip.
I didn't catch that. What'd you say?
You could possibly win a trip to the All-Stars.
Oh, really? Yeah, that would be really nice. I also saw tonight during the game, they were talking about you could enter in to win a sleepover at Golden One Center. I don't know if you entered into that, but I definitely
did. I did enter.
Hey, I'll make a pact with you, Nick. If you win, you got to invite me and Calvin to your sleepover. If Calvin and I win, we'll invite you. Is that a good deal?
Yes.
Deal.
Hell yeah, we got much better odds that way. That is for sure. Also, hey, I just want to remind everybody, we are live currently on Twitter Spaces. So if you want to listen on Twitter Spaces, if you want to join in like Nick, all you got to do is just go over to Twitter, follow us at Royal_Rebounds. You can click on our profile picture, join the space. You can request to come up on stage and definitely have your voice heard. Calvin, you got any questions for Nick?
Yep. Oh no, go ahead, Nick. You got some questions for us?
Well, I did want to say that, hey, like the name, go Kings.
Go Kings. Absolutely, man.
That's good, man. Well, Nick, dude, are you out? You're out early tonight. You're off work early, huh?
No, I don't work at Golden One Center. I was at the game.
Oh, actually, I got one more question before you go. I know on the last stream we talked a little bit about your practice coming up. Did you figure out what position you're going to play?
We're not sure. Not sure yet.
Okay. What's your game like? Are you a shooter? You work inside?
We play inside.
Okay.
Okay.
If you were to name any Kings player currently that resembles your game the most, who would it be? Are you a De'Aaron Fox, a Sabonis, Malik Monk?
I think De'Aaron Fox.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Okay. That's a hell of a comparison there. All right, Nick. Well, thank you for joining in tonight, man. Hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday after the next win, huh?
Okay, you too. Sleep
All
great.
right, buddy. Light the beam.
Thanks, Nick.
Light the beam.
All right, Calvin. Back to defense. Go for it.
Well, I don't think there's really much else to say. I mean, I wouldn't say the Kings were great tonight defensively. They were good. But sometimes your best defense is a great offense, right? They continued to knock down shots. They built a big lead early in this game, and the Magic had to shoot, a lot of outside shots to try to keep pace or to catch up, and they did not convert on a lot of those. The closeouts were pretty good. They gave up, like I said, a few more offensive rebounds, as is, per usual with this team. It was better than it's been in the last few days, but they also haven't played as good of a team, as they've played in the last few games as well. So it's something to build off of. I wouldn't say it was great. It was good.
Oh, man, you guys are killing me here in the chat, Neil. Hopefully the sleepover isn't after a win, Calvin. Otherwise, we might not be able to sleep with that beam on, dude. The light, right? It might light up the entire arena. Also, shout out to Tito for joining in. And also, Matthew's here. Also, Matthew, welcome in. Welcome in. Matthew says, if the Warriors don't have 5 All-Stars for their 500 team, it's a crime. Calvin, you agree or disagree?
Totally disagree. And I know you were kidding, Matthew. I didn't mean that seriously.
All right. Shout out to David, dude, for the super chat. David, thank you so much. We appreciate you. More money for the beer fund. Speaking of beer fund money, Calvin, we got another caller here on the line. Everybody's favorite Kings fan from the UK. He's drinking red wine tonight. Fred, welcome in, Fred. How are you, buddy? Fred, you gonna leave me
hang on?
in?
There we go. There we go.
There we go.
How are you guys? You good?
Dude, I'm feeling great.
How are
I'm
you?
fucking fantastic, Fred.
Nick's a cool guy, and I like Nick.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah, Nick's
He's a good
Super
guy.
fan.
He's a funny guy. I like Nick. We won, didn't we? We won. I love it. I love it. It's good for your mental health, isn't it?
It's great. It's great for my mental health. Fred, but I do have to, real quick, before you get started, I got to call you out, bro. You were wrong. You said they were winning by 20. You didn't tell me they were winning by 25.
Yeah, I suppose so. That's similar, isn't it? Okay, so the next game we're going to win by 20 as well, aren't we? So there we go. Easy. Who have we got next? Rockets next? Is it the Rockets back-to-back with the Rockets? And then we got the Spurs.
Yep.
I like that. I like that a lot. So it's got to be. We got to win 3 games there, haven't we? We got to win all 3.
Oh, yeah,
we have to win all 3. That's
going.
the thing. Yeah, we
better
have
than
to win
that
all
tough
three.
road trip on the East Coast, huh?
Yeah, but I don't think we've got to go back out to the East for I think we've pretty much done all of our games out there. I think bar 2 or 3 games now. I don't think we've got too many left.
Yeah, I think we are.
So we're pretty much on the West Coast now for the remainder, apart from sort of going out there for a little bit. I'm getting all statty here.
Yeah, that's great. Not till we head to Brooklyn. I think we face Brooklyn in March. So wow, that is a long time before we head back to the East Coast. That's great.
So it's good. We've got to be confident. Confident going forward, but we have to win the next 3 games. If we don't win the next 3 games, then it's a bit of a wobble, isn't it? But anyway, Malik Monk, told you guys, Malik's back. He's the talisman, glues that team together. Looking at his stats and stuff like that as well, he reminds me a little bit of Tyreek. In the terms that he can he can get 20 points, he can get 5 rebounds, he can get the 5 assists. So it's almost as if we've got a Tyreek Evans from back in the day, but we can actually bring up the bench. Does that make any sense to you?
I see some similarities.
A little bit of similarities.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the way he can cut to the basket. He's not that great from free at the minute. Tyreek was never a great 3-point shooter anyway.
Attacks the basket for sure.
Yeah, and I actually think Malik is much better at actually attacking the basket rather than actually having to limit himself to shooting the 3 points. So I think it plays in.
Tyreek was.
Oh yeah, definitely a much better shooter. But the thing is, we kind of utilize him. We kind of utilize his skills in the fact that he can actually attack the basket. I don't think the Lakers really done that too much. I think they were kind of using him on the as a 3-point shooter. I think more so we kind of we let him be the player that he wants to be. So yeah,
I absolutely agree with that.
And I think it sort of plays into his own persona as well. Who else was good tonight? Metu was good. It was nice to have Metu back. I don't know why he was dropped in the first place. He had a run of really good games for us, and then he was out the starting lineup. But he came back in tonight, and he was incredible. What was it? 9 rebounds he got.
Yeah.
He
11
very,
points,
very well.
9 rebounds. We didn't really talk much about Metu tonight, Fred. So you want to break down Metu? What did you like at him tonight?
It was just aggressive. He actually went out there and he wanted to prove a point because obviously the centre position, the backup centre position is there for grabs, isn't it? So Rashawn Holmes had 3 or 4 games. To be fair, Rashawn was actually pretty good in the last game. He wasn't great, but he was much better than he had been. And then Ketter was there beforehand. I call him Ketter, don't I? Ketter. But yeah, I think Malik coming back, not Malik, I think Metu coming back in tonight, it kind of gave us some energy, gave us some bounce. He just seems to gel with that first unit and the second unit a lot better than the other guys who have kind of had their run to try and claim that second position behind Domas. So yeah, that was nice to see.
I think he did an incredible job. I mean, one thing we've been talking about over the past couple games is that Rashawn Holmes has been getting more minutes, and we've been making a lot of excuses for Rashawn, right? We're saying, oh, he hasn't played in a while, he's a little rusty, it's going to take him time to get a rhythm. Dude, Metu didn't need any of that. You threw him right in tonight. He was productive. Yeah. He's done, like Calvin was saying early on in the season, one thing I love out of Metu is he's not falling in love with the 3-point shot anymore. He's getting to the basket. He's passing the ball.
Exactly that. But he's not a 3-point shooter, is he? He's not that guy. I think I was watching a few things this week with sort of Coach Brown sort of saying various things. But he doesn't actually want the backup centre to be a scorer. He just wants him to come in and get the rebounds and be a good defensive player. And I think Metu actually came out tonight and he was that guy. And you can't expect anything more than what the coach actually asks from the actual task and the role that he's giving the backup centre. And I think Metu came out tonight and he actually done that job brilliantly.
Calvin, you agree with him? You think Metu should be the backup center for this Kings team?
I think they should continue to give him a chance. I don't want to take too much away from Chimezie tonight. I do think that this was a really good matchup for him.
Exactly. It all comes down to matchups as well,
Yeah. It's one game. It's good to keep that in mind. If he can continue to do this, and of course he's got to play, right, to be given the opportunity. It's hard. We've been talking about that all season long when, it's a difficult position for all these guys to be in, to play, for 4 or 5 games in a row, consistent minutes, and then not play at all for another 4 or 5 games in a row. To be a consistent producer in that scenario is very difficult. But I do think that this was a good matchup for him. He's going to really struggle against teams that are – the Magic are big, but they don't throw the ball inside onto the low block and attack guys
if
that
it's a physical
way.
player, then he's going to struggle,
That's
isn't he?
tough for Metu to defend guys like that. But
then haven't we got Alex Len who can kind of come in and deal with the more of a physical centre? That surely that's Alex Len's bread and butter, to come in and be able to compete with a big physical guy. But obviously, he's not being given that chance.
Right?
Would you say?
No, definitely not. And for me personally, Alex Len is the guy that I would bury on the bench. I don't want to see him play consistent minutes. He's a big guy and he does a lot of things well. But I don't think he helps the team as much as even Rashawn does. Or
that's where we get rid of Rashawn, but when we get the cap space and we get someone in who can actually fulfill that role, and then we can waive Alex Len, can't we? But I suppose it's a case of just finding that player. But Monty's pretty good, isn't he? I do like Monty. He's probably the best GM we've had for years, isn't he? He's really good. He's really good.
14 guys played tonight for the Sacramento Kings. 14 guys, including a guy they signed to a 10-day contract yesterday.
Doja.
And Alex Len didn't even get any minutes. He didn't get any run. So what does that mean for Alex Len? He's
going to get cut, isn't he? He's going to get cut. I think so. There's better players you can get.
I'd be surprised if they brought him back again next season. I mean, I still think, you don't want to cut even your third string player. You don't want to just cut people for no reason without having a plan to replace them. In today's day and age with injuries, COVID, illness, all this stuff, you never know when you're going to need somebody to step in like that. So I don't think you cut somebody just to cut someone. But I would be surprised if Alex Len returns next season.
Who would you guys go for? So if we need like a backup center, a backup physical center, obviously Metu can play against his matchup, which he showed tonight. But if there was a chance of bringing that backup center in, who would you guys go for?
I'll let you go first, Cal.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a list of guys actually that I'm going to be looking at targeting. We'll get into that later on in the show. But I think a lot of the names that you've already heard this season make a ton of sense. I'm still a big Naz Reid fan. I think that he has been underutilized this season in Minnesota, another team that has a ton of centers. He doesn't play a lot of minutes. He's improved his game. He's a better outside shooter now, good rebounder, great length, the opportunity there for rim protection and blocks. He's a guy I like a lot. I think there's a few other names out there, Daniel Gafford. There are guys that they could find. It's all about finding, Fred, you just gave Monty all the praise in the world, and deservedly so. He's the guy that has to come up with the right deal that doesn't give away too much, keeps this Kings team mostly intact, but still adds that piece.
Would either of you guys
keeping it consistent?
Would either of you guys consider a guy like Dwight Howard?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
What do you think, Cal? It doesn't cost anything to get him, right?
I would consider him. Yeah, I would definitely consider him.
Like, I mean, I don't know what you're going to get out of Dwight, but I feel like you could get more than you would out of Alex Len. That's kind of my...
That's probably true.
I also think as well, if you were to get a guy like Dwight Howard, he's got experience that he could pass on to guys like, a Keegan Murray, who's probably struggling to find his footing with rebounding. So the experience that a Dwight Howard could pass on to someone like Keegan Murray, I know they play slightly different positions, but, that experience could be passed on, and he could maybe take a Keegan Murray under his wing and sort of show him the tricks to how Dwight Howard kind of got his name and his brand going, because he was a fantastic rebounder, wasn't he? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we talk all the time about how Sabonis is such a load for guys to handle inside, right? He's really physical. He beats guys down. If you take him out of the game and all of a sudden now you have to go up against Dwight Howard,
yeah, that's it.
You're just going to continue to get, punished inside physically. I think that gives the Kings an advantage. And let's be honest, any situation where you have a Hall of Famer coming off the bench for you is usually a good thing to have.
And
maybe
it's going to be
not in
crafty,
production points-wise, but yes, there's a lot of – he has a ton of experience. He's played in a lot of playoff games. He's been one of the most dominating inside guys in the NBA, maybe ever. Definitely up there in the top 10 of those when we're talking about those types of players. So there's certainly things to like about Dwight Howard. I don't know. It's really hard for a guy who's been playing in Taiwan. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, I'm butting in here. I'm butting into you here.
No,
I'm trying
go
to
ahead.
sort you.
Go ahead, please.
How about a DeMarcus? Would you consider a DeMarcus on a 10-day to, would you go back there? I know you never bring ex-players back.
I would rather have Dwight Howard.
I was going to bring that up, Fred. I was going to ask you. I see Silva here is also asking, or Silva says I'd rather get Cousins before Howard. The last time we had you on, you were raving about your favorite player, DeMarcus Cousins, back when he was with the Sacramento Kings.
I do like a bit of Boogie. And the thing is, I don't know, Boogie would give that team a bit of fight, wouldn't he? Especially that second unit. I don't know. But then with his bad attitude, kind of upset the apple cart, as they say. But then if he was on a 10-day, if he came in and he was a complete turd, you could just get rid of him, couldn't you? But I don't know. I think sometimes that Kings team can be a bit soft. They can be a bit soft, can't they?
Damage could already be done, Fred. That's my concern with Cousins. Calvin and I don't remember when it was when we were in Sac, Calvin. It was a couple years ago, and I remember, our Uber driver was an ex-employee of the Kings, and she was just talking about how Cousins would just berate everybody, every single person. So, he was a hell of a basketball player. I was a big fan. I enjoyed watching him. But at this point, dude, chemistry is what we have going for us. I wouldn't risk it.
But again, could you also maybe see that maybe he had that bad attitude because they never really got behind Cousins, and because they had Maluta in charge at the time and they were skinflints, they never really got behind Cousins and built a team behind Cousins. So imagine if you were in DeMarcus's position and you had all that skill, but you didn't actually have the management and the head office that believed in you to actually build a team around you. Now, maybe if he was to come back and you actually had that kind of structure there, he might be a different player. Can you kind of see that point, perhaps?
He played with a lot of teams, Fred.
It's possible.
He went to multiple teams. Yeah. The last time I was in Europe, DeMarcus Cousins was in the news for threatening to kill his ex-wife. So it's like...
Yeah, fuck him, man. He can fuck off. Pardon me language.
I get it. No, but I get it.
Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah. Like we'll have Dwight Howard.
Fans feel that way, right? A lot of Kings fans are like, man, Cousins could help this team. He could bring a lot. Because, dude, the guy is so talented. It's just, I don't think he has all the pieces of the puzzle. I think he's missing a little bit.
Even when he was on winning teams, he played for the Lakers, the Warriors, the Bucks. Even when he played for those teams, I saw the same body language. I saw the same, he slumps his shoulders. He's complaining to the refs.
Look at the Nuggets last year. In the playoffs.
Yeah, and I suppose if he was that good for the Nuggets, he would actually be back there now, wouldn't he? So I suppose you got to look at that.
He was fighting with the bench during the playoffs.
Okay, so we'll go for Dwight Howard then, yeah?
I saw someone mention, I think it was David said, what about Nerlens? I'm a big Nerlens Noel fan. What
is it going to cost a lot, though? How much would it cost now, though?
We don't know. We don't know how. Well, outside of Dwight and DeMarcus, who you wouldn't have to trade for necessarily.
I think the biggest question, though, is
any of these guys are going to cost.
Yeah, I think the biggest question, though, is getting Rashawn off of our payroll, because what was he being paid? 10 million, 11 million at the minute. So
12 million.
Yeah, 12. So £12 million would get us a half decent centre, a half decent back. Well, even 6 could get us a half decent backup centre, and then you've got 6 to spend somewhere else, haven't you? So I think the biggest question is trying to find a team that will take Rashawn Holmes, and I think as soon as he's gone, it probably opens up a couple of roster spots where we can probably bring in some half-decent second-unit players.
Hey,
But
guys,
Trey Lyles, he's great as well, isn't he?
I got Bench Matthew requesting to come on stage, so we're gonna try this out with 4 of us here talking. Let's try our best. But I'm gonna bring Bench Matthew up because I know he's got some good stuff to say, and he was at the game tonight. Unfortunately, all 3 of us were not able to go because we're all
yeah. He's the guy.
But I'm gonna bring him up. We'll see what Bench Matthew has to say. All right, Bench Matthew, welcome in. He's gonna leave me hanging, huh?
I think Matt's there.
All right, we'll wait for him. We'll wait for him to jump in here.
Hold up, here we go.
Oh, there he is.
Oh,
He's
look
here.
at that.
There it is. Can you guys hear me okay?
Pleased to meet you, dude. Pleased to meet you, dude. How are you doing?
We can hear you.
Doing great. Nice to meet you, Fred. It's great hearing you on the last stream.
Dude, Matthew, tell us what it was like in Golden One Center tonight, because it was lit, right?
I'll just say that the Light the Beam chant tried to get started with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That's just about all you need to know.
Beautiful.
It was the loudest game I've ever been to, and once a year we treat my dad to some tickets, and he returned the favor with buying us some Domas jerseys. And I'm just going to say I'm only ever going to wear these Domas jerseys to every Kings game we go to. You're welcome.
You got to bring your dad more, man.
Look, the wave got started.
I know.
There was a franchise threes. It was a great atmosphere in there tonight.
It was a good game to be at, that's for sure.
I'm so jealous. Hey, Matthew, I want to hear your thoughts. We're debating a little bit about bringing in DeMarcus Cousins or Dwight Howard as the backup center. Are you open to either of these guys?
I'll be totally honest. I don't know enough about Dwight Howard's game, but I would not be in favor of Boogie. I've just kind of I'm burnt out from that kind of attitude. You know, I really think that we got to protect the culture in this locker room and the culture surrounding this team, because we've got something really good going here. Mike Brown is really facilitating a good culture in that locker room, and no disrespect to Boogie, his game and his talent, but I just think that we got to safeguard that culture. You know what I mean?
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I feel you. I feel that.
100%.
I feel that.
And you know, the thing is about both of these guys, right? Because everyone wants to bring in another guy. They want to make a trade. You know, the beauty of these two guys is you don't really have to give up anything to bring them because they're not signed to a team. But then on the other side of the coin, maybe there's a reason neither of them is on a team right now, right?
Yeah. And we can see right now, you know, with the production that happened tonight on the bench. I mean, when our bench is cooking the way that there really should be, I would argue that we might not need that. You know,
I agree completely.
I really want to chat about rebounds at some point. We can do that later, but I'm looking at the stats tonight and just seeing the way that the bench produced, you know, the eye test, it was all there tonight.
It just needs to be more consistent, though, doesn't it? I think the last few games before that, they just failed. But then I reckon Coach Brown kind of, I don't know, I think he was a little bit pissed, wasn't he, after the last couple of games? I reckon he gave them a good old-fashioned dressing down in the last couple of days back at the gym, and they kind of came out tonight and they fought for the jersey, didn't they?
Yeah,
absolutely.
They played great tonight. Hey guys, I want to move on here to Harrison Barnes because HB had a great game. I think this was his best game of the season. 30 points, a rebound, an assist, 11 of 13 from the field. Calvin, he was 8 for 8 at one point. Fred, I'm gonna let you take this one first. What'd you see out of HB tonight?
I saw HB sitting on the bench alongside Malik Monk, and I think Malik Monk does things to HB. Like even you can see their chemistry on the bench. You know, Harrison Barnes looks like a completely different player. He actually looks engaged. He looks like I think Malik Monk makes him smile, if that makes sense. I think Harrison Barnes enjoys playing. And I think that's down to Malik Monk. And I think he goes out there and the way Malik G's him up. And I don't know. I think that's down to Malik Monk. I honestly do think Malik Monk's presence brings something out of Harrison Barnes and that's probably why HB is a different player at the minute. That's my reason behind it anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point. We all know you came to the Kings because of Cousins, but apparently you're staying because of Malik Monk. Bench Matthew, what'd you think about HB's game tonight, live, in person?
Well, I'll just jump right off of what Fred is saying. I mean, from the warm-up to, the Liddy committee to everything, I mean, Monk and HB were just smiling the whole time, and it was contagious. Not just the team, but I mean, my whole row was just smiling the whole game. But when you look at his line, 30 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist in 30 minutes. I got to think that Luke Walton is just scratching his head, as he watched this game, because that's what he wanted from HB, right? I mean, that's exactly what he wanted. And it's so interesting to me that Harrison Barnes showcases what he's capable of on the offensive side when this team needs rebounds. And look at what the bench did tonight. They produced rebounds. And so I think Mike Brown came in, especially on the back end of this Laker game, how we attacked the Lakers and lack thereof on defense, looking at this matchup, which is a big lineup, and said, look, we've got to get established on the perimeter early, and that just never let up. And so I'm honestly a little bit surprised that HB led that charge, but I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to be surprised. Really happy for him.
Are either of you guys on the trade Harrison Barnes train?
Definitely not.
Maybe to upgrade, get a better 4, maybe a John Collins or somebody like that, or you want to stick with him at this point?
I don't think you could upgrade on HB at this point. I know you could bring in like a Kuzma or, like you were just saying, about a John Collins. I think HB brings in some experience, and like we were going back, you got Malik, who kind of gets behind Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes, then for me, is the guy who's going to bring Keegan Murray along. So I think you stick with Harrison Barnes. Hopefully at the end of the season, we can get HB to sign to a smaller contract, maybe for a couple of years. I think anything more, and I think HB will probably drop off. But yeah, we've definitely got to keep HB. I think he's the experienced old head in that team. So yeah, that's where I would go with it anyway.
Great point.
Yeah,
what do you think, Matthew?
No, I'm going to sound like a yes man, but I'm with you 100%, Fred. I mean,
I love that. Jeez, man.
Trust me, I'm not a yes man, but I'm following you 100% on this take. I mean, not only do I like him as the culture that he brings, but exactly what you just said.
He's sensible, isn't he? It's a sensible guy. You need that sensible guy in the locker room, don't you? And HB's the sensible guy. Malik's the energy, but then, Harrison is the old head now, and so yeah, perfect combination of them two.
The old head.
And when you look at positions, from a qualifying standpoint, I mean, Sabonis is that kind of vocal leader the Kings have needed, and Barnes has been that quiet leader. And I think that you need that experience from a guy, and if you take that away, we're going to be missing something.
But then I think even that Malik Monk's influence is helping HB actually speak out and actually become more of a vocal leader as well. Do you feel that?
I've seen that more recently in the last month or so, especially, and I'm sure you guys have probably seen this too. You rarely ever see HB talk back at a ref, and I'm not on team anti-ref here, but
yeah,
I've seen him really grow into a position where he's really starting to draw some lines, and I think that encourages the team.
But he's getting passionate as well. That's passion as well. A little bit of passion,
like every player, you build up like a resume, right? So like for example, we were just talking about DeMarcus Cousins. The dude would berate refs every single night over and over and over again. So if you're a referee, DeMarcus Cousins arguing a call, it doesn't really mean much because you expect that of him. Versus a guy like Harrison Barnes, like you said, was the complete opposite, right? This guy never argues a call. He's the nicest guy in the world. But when he questions a call, as a referee, you're like, I've been refereeing this guy for 10 plus years. He's not happy now. Maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah, it's called respect, isn't it? The refs probably think, okay, HB, he's a respectful kind of guy. So I feel what you're saying there. Yeah, 100%. I like that.
Calvin,
DJ
what are your
Fresh.
thoughts on HB? I like this. You guys do all the talking. I'm drinking whiskey. Calvin, HB.
I was gonna say the same
Send me
thing.
one
man.
over, yeah.
I'm getting tired of
Took
listening
over
to Barry
yourself.
talk, so you guys just keep going. No, I agree. I mean, I'm a yes man too here, but I've been on Team Harrison Barnes for a while now. I mean, the thing we've talked about with him for so long is just consistency, like most of the other players, role players on this team. But I think that the way that Monty filled out the roster now, it took a lot of pressure off of Harrison Barnes. Last year, they needed him desperately to score 20 points a game. They don't need that from him anymore. So he's playing a little more free now. I think the veteran leadership has been there for a while, but it's more important this year with guys like Keegan Murray, who play a similar style, similar position to him. If he's going to be able to give you 11 to 15 points a night, play good defense, he gets 5 rebounds a game. Matthew, I'm on you with the rebounding here. We're going to have a conversation about this later. The Kings need more guys to average 5 or more rebounds, and Harrison Barnes is one of them. So he's an incredibly valuable player to this team. I agree in a way with what Fred said that you can't upgrade from him. I do think there are definitely guys out there that you could upgrade Harrison Barnes with, but are they available? Are you going to be able to get them? Probably not. So is it worth trading away a guy that's really important to your team to take kind of a swing at the fences at this point when the team is on the up and up and playing much better? I don't think that's the answer.
Yeah, I agree. I see a couple people in the chat here talking about maybe bringing a guy like Hassan Whiteside. I'm on Lydia's page here. She says Hassan's already been with the Kings twice. Let him go, right? That's kind of how I feel, right? Is it fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? I don't even know what happens when you get fooled 3 times. You guys have any perspective on Whiteside?
Definitely no. Definitely not.
There you go. Quickest answer Fred's given all night.
If we need a tall guy with some beef, he's on the bench, and his name is Alex Lent. I don't think that we're in need to put some more beef on the bench. Just, he's already there.
You got the other thing as well, like you were going back to upgrading on HB. We could upgrade on HB and we could spend the money that we use that. When we get rid of Rashawn Holmes, like I'm going back a couple of pages here, but we're going to get $12 million there, aren't we? So we could use that to upgrade on HB, but we're not going to get a lot there, are we? Not much of an improvement. And we could spend that money in a different way and get a better center, or we could upgrade at a different position. So it'll be dead money really getting rid of HB. So yeah, there you go.
Well, Fred, I know. We've agreed that HB should probably stay on this team. I think we can all agree that we want him to re-sign for less. Is this re-signing to maybe be a bench role, a starter? Because, he's a little bit older than some of these other guys. So maybe there could be a potential where you trade a Rashawn Holmes, a couple first-round picks, you bring in a starting power forward, and then maybe HB's the first man off the bench. Or anybody on board for something like that?
I think you've probably already got Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter who can. I know Huerter's already in the starting position there, but then could you not move Huerter to the into the free spot, bring Monk into the second spot, and then Keegan Murray will obviously take over from HB. I know they're both starting at the minute, and then I suppose then you bring HB off the bench. That's probably how I would potentially work that, because because Malik Monk is working his way off of that bench now. He knows he's not always going to be the 6th man. He is going to want to be in that starting lineup at some point. And then you've got money to spend on upgrading on the other positions, haven't you, to come off the bench?
What do you think, Matthew?
Well, if we're talking about any kind of rotation, my wife's favorite player off the bench is Trey Lyles, and I'm really big on Trey Lyles.
Underrated.
And I'm looking at the stats right now, and if you're talking about trying to get another big man, and I'll be honest, I didn't realize that Trey Lyles is basically the same height and weight as Rashawn Holmes. I'm looking at the roster right now. I did not know that. I mean, the way that he plays, he's so nimble. If we're talking about rotating a guy in and out, I'm trying to put myself in Mike Brown's shoes here. I might play around with trying to get Trey Lyles to start here and there, depending on the matchup. just because the energy that he brings off the bench, and we were talking about this in the car ride home on the way back from the game. Some of these guys are coming off the bench with energy because, that's their role, right? When you are benched by committee, part of your job description is to come out explosive. So who knows what Trey Miles might look like with 30 minutes instead of 16. But if we're talking about, moving some guys around here, that might be something I would try.
Interesting. I am definitely a big Trey Lyles fan. What do you think, Calvin? Did you understand what my question was? I'm saying, if you're able to trade Rashawn Holmes and maybe some picks for a guy like John Collins, maybe start him at the 4, bring HB off the bench, would you be open to something like that? Do you think HB is the guy that comes out of the starting lineup? Is it Kevin Huerter? Is it maybe Murray or?
If I'm able to get John Collins just giving up Rashawn Holmes and picks, I'd do that in a heartbeat. I mean, there's not even any question. Keeping all those other guys, those key role players, all your young guys, that's a no-brainer in my opinion. I don't think that's realistic, to be honest, but I would definitely do that. I think it was Neil. I hope I'm giving you the right shout out here, Neil. He was making a good point that Keegan Murray is the future when it comes to the forward position for this team, or at least the small forward. So trading Harrison Barnes while his value is high, that's a question that Monty has to ask himself. And I think you can say that since we're talking about all these different lineup combinations and possibilities, the Kings have a lot of options here. But the question is Keegan Murray ready to jump into that bigger role? Does having Harrison Barnes here help Keegan Murray right now? I think it does. So they're at a crossroads because they're maybe one player away, one big-time player away from being a serious contender in the Western Conference. But they're also, I've used this phrase before, playing with house money, I think, at this point. They're a young team that's getting a lot better, a new head coach that has the right focus for this team, seems to have the guys, connected and listening, buying into the system, all that stuff. They have cap space going into this summer. So how aggressive do you really want to be? Do you risk throwing yourself back, or taking a step back because you were too aggressive making a deal? You gave up too much. So where even though you got a good player, you lost a lot as well, and you have to kind of, pick up the pieces where you left off. It's a really tough position to be in, I think.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing as well?
I agree. Hey, guys, hold on. I got to mute everybody real quick. I got to play the Island Boys before Lydia has a stroke here, and then we're going to dive into Calvin's article on rebounding. Don't go anywhere because I definitely want to hear what you guys' perspective are, but I'm going to mute everybody for a second here. All right. Sorry, Lydia. I'm sorry, Lydia. It's taken me so long, but here you go. Your favorite.
The Kings won, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Kings won, yeah. The Sacramento Kings, oh, yeah, the Kings won, yeah. Fox is so fast. Subbing us is so strong, yeah. Coach Mike is so smart, yeah. They are the playoff bound, yeah.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys, to everybody that's just joining in right now, welcome to Royal Rebounds, the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans, by fans. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you smash up that like button and hit that subscribe button. We are live after every single Kings game, win or loss, talking about your Sacramento Kings. My name is Barry. That's Calvin. We got a couple amazing fans here live on Twitter Spaces that we'll hear from in a second. But biggest news of the night, Kings win tonight, 136-111 over the Orlando Magic. A huge win for the Kings in a good way to end that 2-game losing streak, get back on the win train, and hey, we got 2 good, juicy, actually 3, 4, 5 maybe juicy games coming up here on the schedule. So I'm definitely excited for that. Also, want to mention the Kings did sign a new player, PJ Dozier, on a 10-day contract. He did join the Sacramento Kings tonight and actually played. Calvin, I heard PJ's dad, Bull, was definitely a workhorse. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, look, he hasn't had a ton of opportunity, but there's a lot to like about this guy. We talk so much about KZ, his size, his length, the defensive potential, all that stuff. I've already seen it a couple times in the chat, so everybody is aware of this, but this guy is 6'6". He has a 6'11" wingspan. he had some really good games in Denver. He just didn't get the opportunities, I think maybe to capitalize as much as he could have. So there's a lot of potential with this guy. I think it's going to be hard just being on a 10-day contract. He's probably not going to get a ton of minutes anyway, but this is the type of player, I think, if you're looking at an archetype, that's the sort of thing that the Kings are looking for. More of these lengthy wings that could be big-time game changers defensively, because it's no secret that's what they need to improve on.
Yeah, clear. No one got my bulldozer joke, but it's okay. We'll move on here. But hey, Calvin, I know you've been waiting all stream long to talk about rebounding. So, dude, I'm going to share a little bit here. Hopefully you guys can read that. I know there's a lot going on, but Calvin has been diving. He's been diving deep, dude, to the sea, the deep sea of rebounding to figure out how to make this a much better Sacramento Kings squad. Calvin, dude, have at it, man, because I know you got a lot to say here.
Well, first of all, are Matthew and Fred still with us?
They are. I have them muted. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let you get in your intro and everything, and then when you're ready, I'll bring them back in because they have a lot of good perspective.
Definitely. Well, I do want to start this whole thing by giving pretty much all this credit to Matthew, because him and I were talking today on Twitter, and he really inspired me to kind of do this research. He did his own little case study on rebounding, and I'm very excited to hear what he has to say. But he posted a little clip on Twitter, a preview of it, comparing the Kings and how their rebounding stacks up to other teams in the NBA. I thought it was really interesting, so I wanted to maybe take it a step further. In Matthew's tweet, he's comparing them to current teams in the NBA that, with all due respect, Matthew, I don't think the Kings compare to very much in terms of the types of players they have, the style of play. So what I decided to do was go back in time a little bit. The two teams, it's no secret the Kings have committed to playing this small ball lineup, right? So in history, recent history, the two teams that stand out the most to me that had the most success by doing that are the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets, from basically the 2015-16 season to the 2019-20 season. So all of these statistics, I tried to compare them to those teams to see how far away the Kings are from not just being a good team, but a really good team and a team that actually has a chance to win in the postseason. And I think my main point or the main picture I'm trying to paint here is we've been talking all season long about who the Kings need to add to take them to the next level, right? The whole point of this is to show maybe that the Kings are closer to being a really competitive team with the current roster than people think. So my first point here about rebounding is I'm kind of going to call out De'Aaron Fox. Fox has got to be a better rebounder. Barry, I asked you earlier today, how many rebounds per game do you think Steph Curry is averaging? And what did you say?
Like 3.
He's averaging a career-high 6.6 rebounds per game this year. He's averaged over 5 rebounds per game in each of the last 6 seasons, which is Fox's entire career, and he's done it in 7 of the last 8. For a guy that's not really known as a rebounder, a team that plays a small lineup, they have to capitalize on getting those extra rebounds from the gap guys. So that would be the guards and the wings. So Fox is averaging a career-high 4.6 rebounds per game this year. He's trending in the right direction. But somebody that's his athletic ability, his leaping ability, his speed and quickness, he should be able to have, one more rebound per game to put him in that 5.5, 5.6, somewhere like that. If he could even get to 6, I think that would be a phenomenal help. But it's not just that. And this is a point that Matthew was making. They need help from the bench. They need help from the other guards, the other wings. You have to commit as a team. Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray are averaging 3.3 and 3.8 rebounds per game, respectively. That's not good enough if you're not going to add another player to this team. Trey Lyles is averaging 3.5 rebounds per game off the bench. That's the lead for guys coming off the bench. But here's the thing, and this is what I'm trying to say about how maybe they're closer than people think. So I took all the numbers from the 2015-16 season through the 2019-20 season for the Rockets and the Warriors. In those 5 years, the Rockets averaged a little over 43 rebounds per game total, and the Warriors averaged a little over 44 rebounds per game total. The Kings right now sit at 41.8, which means if they could just grab 2.25 more rebounds per game, that would set them at that 44 number, and that would move them from, I think it's 26th in the NBA, all the way up to 11th. So that's a huge improvement for, a fairly narrow margin that they need to overcome. Barry, I don't know how much further you want to get in here, because I also looked at points in the paint and blocks, but I know Matthew has a lot to say about rebounding as well, so I want to give him a chance.
Yeah, I feel like we need like a basketball nerd warning before we start
right.
this section, because you're definitely diving in deep, which I love it, dude. But yeah, I'm gonna unmute you guys. So Matthew, dude, I'm gonna let you go first, since you really sparked Calvin on this, and dude, I got to give a shout out to you, man, because not gonna lie, I was working in the yard all day today. I saw Calvin come outside. He had the biggest smile on his face. He was so motivated. He was so excited to dive in on this. Like you should have seen it. He looked like Malik Monk today. So I'll let you go for it, Matthew.
Thank you guys so much. And I'm really glad, Calvin, that you pointed out that the teams that I brought up really aren't the style that we play. And that was kind of sort of an undertone that I was kind of hoping that would come out. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Basically what I did was look at the top 5 rebounders on the Kings. I looked at the Bucks, the Celtics, the Cavs, the Wolves, and the Rockets. So I picked 3 good teams. The Wolves are kind of a mid team, right? Karl Anthony Towns is out. They're having some issues kind of figuring out chemistry with Gobert and Cat. And then the Rockets. And the Rockets at the bottom of the West. And so the top 5 rebounders, and the Kings rank, out of those 6 teams, at the bottom. But what I noticed was either, of the 3 successful teams anyway, the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Cavs. In the case of the Bucks, you've got Giannis and Portis coming off the bench, Bobby Portis, who is their top 2 rebounders. Their 3rd best rebounder is Lopez, who is an absolute tank of a center, and he's averaging 6.5 rebounds a game. So this metric isn't entirely, bulletproof here, because we're talking about, average of rebounds per game, for these players. But the 2 things that rose to the top for me was, in general, the top 5 guys on these successful teams are putting up decent rebounding on their starting lineup from their bigs, or they're getting bench production. If you look at the Cavaliers, between Allen, Mobley, Love, LeVert, and Wade, 3 of their top 5 rebounders are coming off the bench. And I think where the Kings have really been lacking is in that second squad with that bench production, or specifically around rebounds. Going in order with our top 5 rebounders, no surprise, Sabonis, 12.5 rebounds per game. Barnes with 5.2. Then our point guard, De'Aaron Fox, is averaging 4.6 as our 3rd best rebounder, our point guard. Keegan Murray with 3.8, Lyles with 3.5. So when I look at that, the biggest thing that stands out to me is that our top 5 rebounder, number 5, Trey Lyles, is averaging 3.5 rebounds a game. Our 5th best. And that's just not going to cut it. The thing that I want to ask you guys, and Calvin, I think I've heard you still play pickup, yeah?
Not as much as I like to, but yes.
Okay, I'm in the same age. I'm in the same boat. My cardio health is not what it used to be. But we learned this in youth basketball. When you get up on a guy and they shoot the ball, what's the one word that your coach tells you when you're in like 4th grade? What's the word that you yell? Hopefully you learn what I learned. Shot, right? Shot. And what's the purpose of that? It's to let your other teammates know shot's going up, turn around, box out, or get ready for a transition if they're going to get the rebound, right? What I have seen night in and night out is the 3 and 4, which is Barnes and Murray, be the biggest variable in rebounding. And that's really an area where you've got to be crashing those boards. And that's one of the things I love about Trey Lyles is how many times do you see Trey Lyles, who's up on a guy, hand in the face, 25 feet from the basket, and he comes in a beeline crashing that glass. And I think and I'd love to hear you guys' thought. So I want to ask you guys a thought. Why do you think that so often we've got three guys guarding the perimeter and not crashing the glass? Is it that we're afraid of getting beat on a transition, right? Like you don't want everyone to go in for the glass because then they're just going to outlet and you're going to get cherry picked. Or do you think that there's just not a vision from the 3-4 and maybe even the two guards to get that glass? What do you guys think about that?
Barry, you want to go ahead? Or do you disagree? The two of us have been talking for a long time.
Dude, I'm enjoying listening to you guys, man. I feel like I talk way too much all the time, so I'm gonna let you guys talk.
Okay. Well, I don't want to dominate here, so because I will talk until the sun comes up.
I'm in the same boat, so and it's great to have this conversation. I think, but I agree totally with you. If you're gonna commit or double down to playing the smaller lineup, you have to crash the glass. Everybody, you can't be worried about the guys out on the perimeter. Barry brought up a good point when I was talking to him about this earlier today in comparing the Warriors to the Kings. He was saying, well, the reason Fox isn't in there rebounding, right, is because they have Sabonis rake and take, start the break himself. So Fox doesn't have to be in there because he's not looking for that outlet pass. I think that the Warriors were in a very similar situation. Draymond Green was the guy oftentimes that would grab the rebound and start the break. They didn't necessarily have to get it into Curry's hands. However, I do think that those guys developed a good relationship enough, and they also knew what they needed to win, right? Draymond wasn't going to get every rebound. So Steph knew that he had to be in there to grab a few rebounds, and I think they had a good, nonverbal communication probably to know, okay, if I see that I have an easy opportunity being Steph to grab the board, Draymond, you don't worry about it. You can run the floor, and I'll bring the ball up. If I see that Draymond's got the easy lane to the rebound, he's going to bring the ball up, and I'll leak out, or not leak out, but I'll run hard down the floor. Sabonis and Fox have to have that same type of relationship. I don't think it's a bad thing to have both of those guys handle bringing the ball up the floor in different situations. I mean, who could argue that De'Aaron Fox bringing the ball full head of speed downhill trying to get to the basket is a bad thing? So what they need is more rebounding, right? Sabonis is already leading the league in rebounds. They need help from everybody else. And I think De'Aaron Fox, with all the athletic ability and physical talents that he has, should definitely be able to get more than 5.5 rebounds per game.
Yeah, I mean, sorry to butt in here, but like at the same time, Calvin, it's like you look at a guy like Steph Curry. What's Steph Curry's best attribute, right? It would be shooting the ball, right? So you're going to let a guy like Draymond get most of the rebounds, push it up court. But if not, you have Curry that can shoot the ball well, and he's a great ball handler. You look at De'Aaron Fox, what's the best thing De'Aaron Fox is at, right? Like, what's his best attribute? Speed, right? And yeah, you could say speed with the ball, but I really think that this offense, and that's why I brought it up earlier, Calvin, is why Sabonis stays back, gets the rebound, passes it up, because De'Aaron Fox is already at half court, already putting pressure on the defense, collapsing inside and finding those shooters. So I get what you're saying, Calvin, and when we talked about it, I definitely watched this game a lot closer, right? Normally, LeBron James is one of the only guys that I watch the whole game, no matter if he has the ball or not. But I spent a lot of time watching De'Aaron Fox without the ball tonight, and I know tonight was a little different because it was a blowout, and, he didn't play a lot of minutes. But I think it is interesting to think that De'Aaron Fox is the guy that wants to get up the court quickest. So I don't know if he always has time to wait for the rebound.
Matthew, what are your thoughts before I continue on
that? And tonight is really a great time to be bringing up this case study because, it was a blowout, but we got into the third quarter and there was a moment, it was like 4 minutes into the third quarter, and everyone in our row got a little nervous, right? They were trying to push back, and this was a great win for the Kings because they were able to stomach that pushback and put on their big boy pants, and they went to work. And I really like what the game plan that Mike Brown came out with tonight. And interestingly enough, in a night where the Kings totally meet the criteria per this case study, where you've got Domas with 10, Metu with 9, Monk with 7, Lyles with 5, Mitchell with 4. Our 4 of our top 5 rebounders came off the bench on a night when the Kings set a franchise record for threes. Right? So if the Kings are going to live by the 3, die by the 3, if you're not going to rebound, you better put up a ton of threes and make them. The Kings happen to do the 2 things that I think are the most important for this team, and that's getting good look threes and rebounding. And for us to have a blowout, here we are talking about, what the Kings were able to put up tonight. I'm not against Sabonis taking the ball up, and we saw it a few times in the Laker game. We saw it a few times tonight, and I think that sets up the offense in a way that's a little bit more dynamic. How often do we see, either it's Fox and Domas, and we've got 3 people in the wings just waiting for the ball. And I think our worst possessions tonight offensively, if we want to dissect it, it's that thing that we see often where you've got 3 people on the wings not moving, either Fox or Domas with the ball, and they're looking for a cutter, and someone yells move. It's either me at the TV or it's, it's Mike Brown on the side or the front row. Someone says move, and if it turns into an ISO, it turns into 22-second ISO. And that's when the Kings, I think, are at their worst.
Yep.
When Fox puts the saddle on and he's fourth quarter Fox, that's a different story. But when you're in the middle of a third quarter and the team is starting to make a push back, what the Kings did tonight is Mike Brown called 2 timeouts within, I think, 2 minutes of each other, and the Kings made an adjustment. And I think the adjustments that you saw was getting back to what worked in the first half, and that's getting quality threes and getting in for quality rebounds.
Yeah. Hey, I want to move on to points in the paint, but before I do that real quick, just, if either of you guys could give me just a couple suggestions how De'Aaron Fox could improve his rebounding.
Well, to me, it's much like defense in general. It's all effort. I mean, some of it is being in the right place at the right time, right position, all of that stuff. But Tom Izzo, is famous for this rebounding drill that he does at Michigan State every year. And the main point of that drill is to put 2 guys against each other, and it's whoever wants it more gets the board. That's what it is. I mean, there's boxing out, there's the technique of boxing out, but when you're coming from the perimeter down to get a rebound, a lot of times you're not going to have to put a body on guys. You're just going to have to go in there and position yourself to grab the board, and that's why I think Fox can be much better at that, along with Keegan. And even, Kevin Huerter. I think that they need all of those guys' numbers to go up in order to be a better team. They're going to close out possessions better. If you think about it, if they just get 2 more rebounds a game, say they're on the defensive side, that could potentially eliminate 4 points off of second point chance from a team. That's a huge swing over the course of a game, especially with all the close games that we've seen from the Kings lately. So it's no secret that they need to go get more rebounds. I think they just have to be better as a group, kind of like we talk about with the defense, being on the same page, having the effort and energy, across the board from all 5 guys. They can't just rely on Sabonis to grab as many rebounds as he can. They need these other guys to grab boards.
I agree. And Calvin, dude, there was a point in the game, right, where I said it late in the game where I'm like, that's a gang rebound, where you had four Kings players almost pushing each other out of bounds trying to get the rebound. Matthew, you got a quick, anything for Fox on how he can improve on rebounding?
Yeah, so I'm 6'3", which means when I was in youth basketball, I was a center, and now when I play pickup, I'm a point guard. So, what I tell people, and look, listen, I'm comparing the way I play basketball to professional, so take what I say for what it's worth. But when I play pickup, if I'm doing a screen pick and roll, or I'm passing it to a shooter, I'll look at him in the eye and say, I got you, and I'm crashing that board, and what I think that does is when a shooter sees that he has 2 or 3 people backing him up, that gives a shooter confidence that even if I don't make that 3, like, we've got a good chance of getting that, right? And we know that a rebound off a 3-pointer is probably going to bounce back further than, a layup or, something off the post. But if Foxy wants to become a better rebounder, himself becoming a significantly better perimeter shooter recently, I think it's just that team chemistry of backing up your other team members, of giving them the confidence of like, hey, this is your shot, I got you, and making that quick cut. Tonight he was up against Fultz and Anthony, I think, and they had decent enough games, which is fine because Fultz is on my fantasy team. But if Fox is worried about getting beat on that outlet because he's the fastest guy and he's probably statistically going to be up against one of the faster guys on the court, I don't know if that's the reason why he's not cutting in as much, because he doesn't want to get beat on a cherry pick or create a mismatch on a fast break. But to answer your question, I think it's just a mental mindset of backing up your shooters, of saying, you know what, like, I got you. I'm going to at least step in for an effort, step in 5 feet just to position myself better.
Yeah, it's definitely a mentality. And when you think about the luxury of having the league leader in rebounds on your team, right? That person commands so much attention and energy and effort boxing out, guys on the offensive end, on the defensive end when the Kings have the ball. Sometimes they have 2 guys trying to box out Sabonis. That leaves a wide open opportunity for someone to crash the glass for an offensive board. It's exactly like Matthew said, a mindset, a mentality, something that I know the coaching staff has talked about in the past with this team this season. But just like getting better defensively, it's just going to take them buying in and committing to do it. And that goes across the board. It's for everybody on the team.
Yeah, I agree. And some of these could just be old habits, right? You're with a guy like Luke Walton, and I hate to throw Luke Walton under the bus because I do it over and over again. He's been run over so many times, the amount of times I've thrown him under the bus. But, some of these could just be old habits of, balls up, run it, get in the fast break, try your best. We have one guy back to rebound, and we're going to pass it up to Foxy and get it up the court as fast as possible. So some of these could be old habits. They could be things that we'll continue to see improve throughout the season. But Calvin, I know you want to talk here about points in the paint, and then we got to talk about these upcoming games against the Houston Rockets. So I'm going to give you the floor if you want to talk about points in the paint, and then you and Matthew can kind of debate that a little bit.
Well, I'll try to make this a lot quicker because, like Matthew was saying, I could literally talk forever about all this stuff, and I have a lot of information here, a lot of numbers, so I apologize if it's a little mundane for anybody out there. But points in the paint is another area for the Kings where we talk about all the time, right, that they're they have too big of a hole there. They allow too many points. It's too easy to score inside. They allow too good of a shooting percentage. These stats don't necessarily show that they're going to make great strides, but again, it's in comparison to other small ball lineups. So right now the Kings average 55 or give up 55.2 points in the paint per game. That's 29th or second to last in the NBA. But when I looked at those old Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors teams, I expected to see them be really good. We think of them as good defensive teams. I expected them to be very high in the rankings in points per game allowed. What I found was the opposite, especially for Houston. For those 5 years, they ranked 26th, 30th, 27th, 26th, and 23rd in points in the paint allowed. The Warriors were much better, but still 24th, 23rd, 25th, 3rd, 4th. They had 1 year where they were all up to 7th. That was like their best statistical year pretty much ever. And then they were 20th. The two teams averaged 26th and 20th in points per game allowed during that time span. So, and I think the other important note to make here is that points in the game as a whole, league-wide, has dramatically increased over the years. The Heat are giving up 44.8 points per, this is too much of a mouthful, points in the paint per game this year. If you go back to the 2004-2005 season, that would have been dead last in the league. So it's a combination of teams being able to shoot much better. That spaces the floor. It gives lanes open for guys to drive and score inside. It's sort of an all or nothing thing now with offenses. It's get a shot at the rim or a three-point shot. There's no real mid-range game. But, man, it's the Kings, again, you know, in order to make this work, it's not like they have to improve exponentially and be a top 10 team in this league or in this category. They could slowly move their way up the list, get themselves to 24th, 25th, somewhere in that range, and still be a really competitive team.
No, I think that's a really interesting point that you're bringing up. And sometimes when we do these kind of deep dives, some of the things that we might have as a hypothesis, here I am using super nerdy words, when you got an idea, and you end up kind of coming in and being a little bit surprised. And when I started doing the rebound case study, it was the same thing. Listen, when you play small ball, you're choosing to give up something, right? You're obviously giving up height to a degree, but you're choosing to do something offensively. You have the choice to do something defensively. And I'll go back to tonight's game. Look at what the Kings were able to do on defense. We did to the Magic what we did not do to the Lakers. The Lakers were shooting the lights out in the first half from three, which is kind of not like them. And then they went into points in the paint. And I don't think they shot a three for the rest of the game, it seems like. Tonight, the Magic, which is a big lineup, they're 4 from 23 from three-point land. We shot way more threes than they did, but we forced them into that position. Yeah, they were getting down the stretch, but man, me and the whole row we were yelling at them, encouraging them to shoot that three, because how many times, surprisingly, the Kings were able to kind of clog up that hole and at least force them with it. We were leaving their big men open up top, whether they were dangling after a high screen pick and roll or they were just spacing the floor. Banchero and who else in here? The center, Wendell Carter Jr. had, 1 of 3, but there was plenty of times when the Kings essentially baited one of their big men to shoot a three, and that's just not their game. And so I think tonight is a great success story that really reinforces, Calvin, what you're saying. If the Kings are going to go small and succeed in that, you're going to compromise with points in the paint. So if that's the choice you make, if you can, I think, encourage a team to do something that they're not comfortable with, you're going to have these blowout games. Kings are not going to have a ton of blowout games this year, I reckon. This is what, our second, third, maybe? Maybe you guys can remember better than I can, but I think this is our Nets,
the Hornets. Those are the two
Hornets
that I really remember.
Okay. Yeah, so this is our third blowout game out of how many now? High 30s, something. So if you're going to compromise on height, and there's going to be a compromise in the points in the paint, you've got to come in with a defensive plan to upset that. And I think the Kings did a good job of that tonight.
We blew out the Pacers. We blew out the Clippers. Wow, I'm surprised. There's a couple more than I remember.
Oh, they have a few double-digit wins. And I also want to say, I'm not saying that they definitely need to defend the rim better, right? Like, they have to be able to do that in order to be a good team. But I think that sometimes when we have these discussions, we think that the Kings are miles away from where they need to be. And what I've seen from looking at these numbers is they're a lot closer maybe than we actually think. And defending the paint, there are multiple ways to do that, right? It's not just blocking shots. Rebounding is also defending the paint, right? Because you give up less putbacks. That takes points off the board for the other team. So to be able to slowly climb up the list in points in the paint allowed, for a small team, I think the point is that they can still, be a good defensive team overall, even though they're not a top 10 team in the league in points in the paint allowed.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to Brian. Brian, we appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. But guys, I agree with both of you guys. There's a lot of really, really good points here. I think that ultimately a lot of these games, like, I think it's almost like a math equation, right? Where if you get the amazing, shooting percentage like the Kings did tonight, you get the assists, you win the turnover battle, you win the rebound battle, like it ends up in a blowout like this, right? But it doesn't happen a lot. So there's a lot of games this season where it's like, okay, you lose the rebounding battle, but how can you still win the game, right? You have to outshoot the other team. You have to limit your turnovers. Other nights, maybe you turn the ball over a lot, but you're out rebounding the other team. So I love where Calvin's going with this, right? Is there's little adjustments that you can make. And, a lot of people, they just look at the stats. They look at the box score. They look at, team rankings in defense, points in the paint, and they think, oh, the Kings are so far away from becoming a really, really good basketball team. But I love what Calvin's saying here, because there are just little adjustments that you can make that will really help impact a lot of these outcomes. Like, Calvin, what are you saying? Like 2 to 4 rebounds a game more is all the Kings need to just become such a more complete basketball team?
Absolutely. They would dramatically jump in the rankings in terms of total rebounds with just a little more than 2 rebounds per game more.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, last section here. I know you wanted to talk about blocks real quick, and then we'll jump into the next game.
Well, this is the one for me. This is really the difference maker, I think, right? Because we've talked so much about rim protection, and I think this is also the area. A lot of these other points I was trying to make show that with player development from the guys that are already on this roster, the Kings can make such a dramatic improvement, right? This might be the one area where they need to go out and get somebody, because I don't know if they have a true shot blocker on this team. Barry, I asked you this earlier. Who is leading the Kings in blocks per game this season?
I know the answer now, but I said Harrison Barnes. I don't know why I said that. I thought it was going to be some random dude.
It is Keegan Murray. He is averaging 0.6 blocks per game, and he has done a much better job as of late. That's why that number has gone up. But the Kings do not have a single player that averages over 1 block per game. And that is where, especially the Warriors, when I looked at these numbers, that's where they separated themselves. Now, I know the Warriors had Kevin Durant and bigger guys. Yes, they did. But they also had other guys that fit the same mold for a lot of the players on the Kings rosters that were still getting that production. So if you look at over these past 5 years, first of all, the Kings are 29th in the NBA right now, 3.2 blocks per game. Houston averaged in that 5-year span 4.8 blocks per game. The Warriors in that 5-year span averaged over 6 blocks per game. And they had multiple guys doing it. In the 5 years, the Houston Rockets had 2 or more players average 1 block per game, 3 of those 5 seasons. The Warriors had 2 or more in every year. And sometimes they had 4 guys averaging over a block per game. So again, that's where they really separated themselves. It's a really tall order to ask for the Kings to improve from 3.2 blocks per game to 4.8, which would take them to where the Rockets are. But if they could do that, they would go from 29th in the NBA to 14th in the NBA. So I think it's about, trying to find another guy that's going to be more of a shot blocker and a rim protector inside, and also bringing along maybe some guys on the roster like Keegan Murray. Maybe he could be that second guy that averages over a block per game for this team and really turn the tide, when it comes to rim protection.
Any thoughts on that, Matthew? And then Calvin will talk about some targets here.
No, I really like the idea of unpacking the idea of blocks not just being a rim protector, especially the era that we're in basketball. I'm just for funsies, I looked up the 02 Kings, and your top 3 blockers are Weber, Divac, and Pollard, and the team is averaging 4.6. That's a different era of basketball. That the Kings were kind of pioneering that style of offense and that style of defense. That's a totally different era. But it doesn't surprise me that Keegan is leading in blocks. And not only because Mike Brown is starting to really kind of encourage him to play more defensively, but that's just not Sabonis' game, right? And we really don't have another big that's coming off the bench that specializes in that. as a specific rim protector. What do you guys think? I mean, from a defensive standpoint, what would make more of an impact? Emphasizing more of a shot block versus shot contest along the perimeter, or having someone that's either a bench big, or the really big question, and I see someone throwing Brooke Lopez's name in the chat, putting in a traditional 5 and running Sabonis at the 4, right? We've talked about that. That's the big question. What do you guys think? More of a defensive effort to block along the perimeter, or more of an effort around the rim protection? What makes the bigger difference for this team the way it's built?
I'll let you go first, Cal.
Well, I definitely think it's shot contest with a small team. But when I looked at these two teams in those 5-year spans, they had guys that were 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", who were still averaging over a block per game. So I think for the Kings, it's about finding that guy that's not on the team right now. Like Robert Covington, for example, averaged over 2 blocks a game one of those years with the Houston Rockets. If they could find that guy and add him onto this team, somebody that still fits the system, the style of play, an outside shooter like Robert Covington is, a versatile wing that switches multiple positions, but still adds to that rim protection ability, that's where it totally changes the game for the Kings. I'm not sure that they need to double down on the Mitchell Robinsons of the world and the big guys and alter what has really made this team so successful on offense. It's a hard thing to do, to find those guys like Draymond and Robert Covington. But if you could, imagine what this Kings team would look like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Robert Covington fan. And Calvin, one thing I really pointed out to you during the Lakers game was we saw Domantas Sabonis have an amazing block on LeBron James. And then what happens? The Lakers get the rebound, and they get the ball right up and score again. I saw someone here in the chat mention a block is not a stop, it's a stall. And I mentioned when we were watching that game, that was one of the biggest things I noticed about the first time LeBron was with the Cleveland Cavaliers, is he'd put out all this effort, get a block, and then the other team would get the offensive rebound and put the ball back. So, for me, I think shot blocking is important, but at the same time, you have to secure the rebound. Otherwise, it's basically pointless. I agree with Calvin. I think, definitely getting some more people that can block shots on the perimeter and also help, right? Where maybe Sabonis is out of position, you can have a guy come over and help inside. But, for me, blocks are important, but rebounds are the key.
No, that's really good insight, and just kind of bringing everything full in. It's about effort, right? It's about mindset, and it's 100%. About execution. And my dad, my dad bleeds a lot of colors, a lot of teams. He's a gamer. The thing he always says, every possession is 24 seconds and then some, right? Because you got to complete every single possession. Exactly what you're saying. Whether it's a block, I really like who said that in the chat. Whoever that is. That's a really great input. A block, a miss, a contest, not a stop until you've got possession of that ball and you head back the other way. 100% agree.
Yeah, and I mean, we've even seen it in the past with guys. I know people were talking about like JaVale McGee, right, where JaVale would block all these shots, but he'd be hitting them into the stands, and the other team would get the ball right back, right? Versus we've seen guys block shots and secure the rebound at once, whether they pin it against the backboard or just snatch it out of the air. So, yeah, I think that's a really, really, really good point. Well, Matthew, dude, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I know Calvin was stoked working on that essay that he wrote today, and he was really, really excited that you were here on the show. So thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. Hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday. You got any last words for all the royal family out there?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. It's my pleasure. And thank you, Calvin, for putting all that homework in, man. We got to have a study party or something. I think we'd have a lot of fun.
Absolutely, dude. Anytime.
Hey, well, I'll just
the sleepover.
Oh, right on. I'll say to Rebound Nation, look, if you guys are looking for a great place to have a game, buy the nosebleeds and come hang out with the Sierra Nevada bar up on the railing. If you guys want to have a pretty fun, rowdy, but classy environment, that's a great place to do it. And I'm just really excited for this season. And just a reminder to all of us, look, we're nitpicking, and if anyone sounds like we're very emotional, Carmichael Day was talking about it this morning, and I think you guys were talking about it the other night. We're emotionally broken fans. If you told us 9 months ago that we would be nitpicking in 5th place, we would have, our heads would have spun around 3 times. We would have stapled ourselves to the floor. We should just remind ourselves that, this season is going better than I think that many of us were expecting. And we can, maybe another show we'll chat about the difference between what would be a success versus, what would be an improvement. But Kings fans, let's be excited. We got a really, really awesome season going. So go Kings.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. That's well said. Rowdy but classy, dude. That's my vibe, dude. That is definitely my vibe. So Matthew, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, buddy. Okay, Calvin. So we have to, dude, we've been talking for a while. I appreciate everyone that's been hanging around talking about all this basketball nerdy talk. We're definitely diving deep here. But hey, let's move on. Real quick, Calvin, can I get some cowbell?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh.
I'm telling you, fellas, you're going to want that cowbell.
We need some cowbell, Calvin. Some cowbell. And then, hey, let's talk about the next game. It's on Wednesday, on the 11th, against the Houston Rockets. As you can see here, I got to turn this off. There we go. As you can see here, we just ended a 2-game losing streak with a win tonight against the Orlando Magic. Next up, dude, 2 awesome games, 2 juicy-looking games against the Houston Rockets, one on Wednesday, one on Friday. Calvin, let's dive a little bit deeper into this game. The Kings are favorites, right? We're at home. We're 21-18. Man, that sounds great, dude. That sounds great. Against a 10-30 Houston Rockets team, Kings have a 79% chance, according to ESPN, to win this game. Nobody listed here on the injury report. Calvin, give me your first thoughts here on Wednesday's matchup.
Well, I think it was Lydia pointed out just how dynamic this Houston offense can be. I mean, they've got a freakishly athletic roster, a lot of young guys who love to attack the rim, and a few guys that can really score if they get going, like really, really score. So this is not a team, despite their record, to take lightly. I mean, the Kings are, you just said they've got an 80% chance to win. This would not be a team, I think, to get caught sleeping around, because they could definitely take the roof or take the rim off the basket, so to speak, with how hard and heavy they attack the rim. So the Kings will have their work cut out for them defensively. The good news is Houston's not a great defensive team, so this could turn into a track meet pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is a very, very young Houston Rockets squad, and no idea why they gave up on Christian Wood, because I was huge on him. But hey, I think you gotta step on him early, Calvin. You gotta kill the confidence. You can't let these guys get going, because then it could be a really, really long night for the Sacramento Kings. This team has a lot of young, talented players, like you mentioned. So the Kings, they got to be careful with this one. Like I've been saying all season long, right? Every team you play every night is in the NBA for a reason, and every team can win on every night. So, I'm going to sleep well tonight, Calvin, thinking that we're going to win Wednesday's game, but I hope our players do not, right? They need to have their eyes on the prize. Hopefully they have a tough day of practice tomorrow. They nitpick like we did for the past hour about what they did wrong in tonight's game, how to improve and get better and get back on it on Wednesday, because you're right. As much as we want to win this game, it could be a track meet. The Kings need to get out early. Calvin, what are your keys to the game?
I think key number one is going to be turnovers. Houston's not a team that you want to give fast break opportunities to. So the Kings definitely have to take care of the ball. the Rockets really, benefit or get their offense going from easy baskets, highlight dunks, things like that. Those are the things that you want to eliminate, especially on your home floor. Keep the crowd involved, all of that stuff. Number 2 is going to be the bench. We just saw them have a huge game today. I think this is a game that they should have an advantage on, the second unit. So bench points are going to be, very important here. And then I want to see some charges taken in this game. The Kings, that's been a point of emphasis, for this small team. Who's going to step in and take a charge? The Rockets have some players that, like Jalen Green, for example, they come down towards the rim at 100 miles an hour just about every play. If you can step in, force some charges, get the ball back in your hands, I think that's going to go a long way to winning this game.
Yeah, I agree. Houston is 11th in the NBA in rebounding, so the Kings definitely need to figure out how to get some more boards, whether it's going to be De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, maybe a little bit of Malik Monk, some Keegan Murray, somebody like that. They definitely need to get rebounds in this game. They need to shoot well. And I'm just going to say exactly what I said earlier. You got to get going early in this game. Step on their necks, Calvin. Let's murder them early. Kings by 25. Like Fred said, light the effing beam. Light the effing beam. All right, Calvin, I think that pretty much wraps us up for today's show. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you so much. We had a really, really long show today. As the bouncer says in the chat, do not forget to vote for all your favorite Sacramento Kings every single day for the All-Star game. Please don't forget to smash up that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Also, real quick, when this video ends, you will get forwarded over to Wednesday's video. I want you to like that video and write in the chat what your prediction is for the game, so we can take a look on Wednesday. We can laugh if you're wrong. We can congratulate you if you're right. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful night, and in the meantime, go Kings. Hello, Brian.